Thank you, Ben. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the rural city of Wangaratta. Welcome to our last council meeting for 2020, and we look forward to some good council meetings moving forward. This public meeting is being recorded to improve access to the meeting for our community. The recording will be published and will be retained by council in accordance with council's legal obligations. If you submitted a question, your name and question will be recorded. We'll be constantly live streaming. If it breaks, we will break until the live stream is returned. Thank you. I acknowledge the Bangarang people as our original inhabitants on whose country we are gathered, pay our respects to their elders past, present and future, and extend the respect to any other First Nation people present here today. Would we please stand for the opening prayer? Almighty God, we humbly ask Thee to bless and guide this council in its deliberations so that we may truly preserve the welfare of the people whom we serve. Amen. Thank you. I'd like to point out that we have Marcus Goonan present as our Infrastructure Services Officer today in the absence of Alan Clark. We'll continue to go down the list through 4, 5, 6 and 7. We'll go for the confirmation of the minutes of the previous council meeting. Could I have a mover there, please?
I'll move, Mr Mayor, with the alteration of the minutes of the last meeting, a slight alteration, correction. Under present, it's got administrators instead of councils, and the next line it says all absent, or just trying to bring it up, but I think it says administrators absent. We're all present, I think it was.
Okay, so we'll make that correction. Councillor, can I have a seconder, please, for that? Councillor Fuller. Obviously no one needs to talk in relation to that. We're all confirmed in that. So can I ask for a show of hands to move the recommendation forward? The motion is accepted. Thank you. Recommendation is carried. There is no conflicts of interest through this, reception of petitions or hearing of deputations. We'll go into item 11, which is presentation of reports, and as the Mayor will do a report. So thank you, everybody. As this is our final council meeting of the year, I'd like to deliver a message to our community on behalf of all of us here at council. We all know the challenging year this has been, and it's not just here in Wangaratta, but all around the world. In our community, we've seen the very best shine through. Everyone has made that effort to look out for one another and to push through this adversity. Some have been impacted more than others. I think of our business community and the impacts on tourism, hospitality and the retail sector. I also think of the health sector and how grateful we are to have excellent staff at North East Health, Wangaratta, as well as our other doctors and allied health professionals who have helped our community through this tough year of 2020. And then there's the parents and the teachers who endured the homeschooling over the last 6 to 8 months. It's been very trying on both. At council, our focus has been on assisting those most in need. As we head into 2021, we'll be helping our community to come back and be stronger. To everyone in our community, please take care over the holidays. Look out for one another. More importantly, tell the people that you love them. We wish you best wishes for the coming year. I know Wangaratta has a bright future, and I can't wait to continue building that future with our community and my fellow councillors and council staff. Thank you. I'll move on to... Sorry, yes.
Point of order, sorry. I move that your report be submitted to the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconder for that. Councillor Bussell. All those in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you, David. We'll move on to item number 12, Executive Services. Brendan.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 12.1 is presenting a list of proposed council meeting dates and venues for the 2021 calendar year. As is customary, we've got about 4 of those locations happening in our rural communities. We've picked up the communities that were proposed to happen across 2020. With COVID, we of course couldn't hold those rural meetings, so we'll hold them in 2021 in those same locations. And we also have 2 meetings, one in May and August, scheduled at 3 p.m. rather than 6 p.m.
I think you can have a mover, please. Councillor Fitzpatrick, Councillor Grant. Councillor Fitzpatrick, would you like to talk on the recommendation? Councillor Grant?
Yes, I do. I'd like to say what a great idea the council meetings in the rural areas are. A wonderful opportunity to meet face to face with people, because that's often something that people have as a criticism of council, that we're not as accessible as we might be. And I think this is a demonstration of the fact that we do want to be connected with our community, and this is a great way of doing it. So I'm happy to second the motion and look forward to the opportunity of meeting with the people across the rural city. My only gripe is that there's only 1 meeting in Warby Ward this time, so hopefully next year another couple.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Would anybody else like to speak on the recommendation? Councillor Bussell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's great to see the meetings out in the Great Southern Land, and I know that Woorali will be extremely excited to have all of us out there to explain very clearly to all the councillors what they would like to do with the netball courts out there. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. If there's no further people to talk. Councillor Fitzpatrick, you didn't want to finish off there, you're okay. I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? The recommendation is carried. Thank you, Brendan. We'll move on to corporate services, Sarah, and we'll go to item 13.1, which is council appointments to portfolios and committees.
Thank you, Mayor. So this report is presented to enable council to appoint councillors to portfolios and committees. This is a really important aspect of the role of the councillors, which includes enabling councillors to keep up to date with council proposals, issues and activities relevant to their committees and portfolios, to be a key point of contact and engagement with stakeholders relevant to these committees and portfolios, to report to the councillor group on any issues arising, and to ensure all councillors have the information necessary to make informed council decisions, and to promote council's priorities and decisions relevant to that portfolio. So the recommendation there is, I won't read through all of it, but essentially to ask for councillors to make the appointments to the proposed portfolios and committees. For the nominees are all listed in the attachment to the report. And I also just wanted to mention point 4 of the recommendation, which was also acknowledgement and thanks to all the various council committees and advisory committees and all their members for all their achievements and their ongoing contribution to the community. So thank you for that too.
Thank you, Sarah. Jack, can I have a mover for that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move the motion as per the recommendation with the addition of the following items. Item 5, amends the councillor representation of the community engagement portfolio to include Councillor Dave Fuller. And item 6, amend the name of the Sustainability, Environment and Resources portfolio to Sustainability, Environment and Resource Recovery.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Herry, would you like to talk on the recommendation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So with respect to the first item, I'll just give a bit of a explanation around it. Given the extent and nature of the community engagement which Council is required to implement as outlined in the new Local Government Act 2020, it has been recognised that the portfolio will benefit from having the representation of 2 councillors. And with respect to the second item, The amendment provides clarity to the portfolio name and is in keeping with the language used in the draft Environment and Sustainability Strategy. And the inclusion of the word recovery recognises the importance of the process of recycling and recovery of finite resources, shifting the focus to acknowledge the inherent value in what has historically been known as waste or rubbish. As indicated by the recent Victorian State Government policy, resource recovery will play a particularly important role in the sustainability, economic development of our communities, particularly over the coming decade.
Thank you, Councillor Harry. Would anybody else like to talk? Councillor Fuller.
Just like to echo Councillor Harry, Mr. Mayor, and importance of the environment being extended out to shadow what's going on with the strategy that will coming out next year. Will be great to see that we actually push for more conversation with our community in regards to these topics.
Thank you, Councillor. Would anybody else like to talk on the recommendation moving forward? If not, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? The recommendation is carried. We'll move on to, thanks Sarah, 13.2, which is the council plan, strategic indicators and project updates.
So this is a recurring quarterly report through which we provide transparent information on the progress of council's commitments made in the council plan, so specifically to the projects and the strategic indicators that are set out in the council plan to show how we're progressing against each of those. It should just be noted that this report and the updates were effective as at the end of Q1, so as at the end of September, and the report is just somewhat delayed due to using the prior council meetings for the appointment of the current council. So just to explain that for anyone reading the attachment that may have seen that things have moved on since even then. So the recommendation is that council notes the council plan projects and strategic indicators status report for Q1 of the 2021 financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Can I have someone to move that recommendation? Councillor Fuller, and a second to Councillor Harry. Councillor Fuller, would you like to talk on the recommendation? Councillor Harry, new team. Anybody else? I'd like to talk a little bit on our strategic direction. So I'll just move forward. So I believe that council here over the last 4 years, now moving into this new council with the new representatives that we have, our council strategic direction is strong and has been for the last 4 years, and especially the last 12 months moving on. And I won't go over all the projects that we've achieved, etc., in the last 4 years, but just in more recent times, we have at the stage that we've got the pump track and the children's garden are now complete. Our skate park is due for completion in March 2021. Our railway precinct development is on time, on budget, and will be completed in February of 2021. Our gravel road resheeting is 70% complete and will be completed by April 2021. Our sealed roads has already been completed. Our township upgrades will start in early 2021 and be completed by June in Millawa, Eldorado and Springhurst. Our building renewal program is 90% complete and will be completed by March of 2021. And our Stanford Road works, that train line intersection there and around into Hamilton Crescent, will start in January 2021, which should take approximately 16 weeks. The most important one that we've been working on for the years is our pool is only final days away from completion. So it's a credit to our strategic organisation or our strategic planning with our organisation and our completion of works over the last 4 years and especially over the last 12 months. So it's a great job done by all. So thank you, everybody. Would anybody else like to talk further on this recommendation? I'll put the recommendation to the vote. So all those in favour? The recommendation is carried. Sarah, 13.3, our Councillor Code of Conduct.
Yep. Thank you. So in recent council meetings, for anyone who's been watching, you'll know we've had a number of items coming up in relation to meeting the requirements of the Local Government Act 2020, and this is another of those, which requires council to adopt a code of conduct within 4 months of the general election. So this report is, and the attachment is presented the draft councillor code of conduct and is seeking agreement to go ahead and open the public consultation process on this councillor code of conduct, as it is a major council policy. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Obviously, there's no questions from the gallery on any of these matters at the present time. There's ones coming up, but can I have a mover for this recommendation, please? Councillor Bussell, and a seconder, Councillor Grant. Would anybody like to talk on the recommendation? Councillor Benton.
I haven't got, just asked a question. How long is this out for public comment?
I think it's 28 days.
Is it normal? It's not in the recommendation, is it?
It's not in the recommendation, no.
It would be for the proposed 28 days unless you would like to increase the amount of time.
No, I think it should be put in the recommendation, in the motion.
Do you want to make it 0.5? You're happy with the recommendation?
Well, if the mover and the seconder approve, yeah, make it, put it in there for 28 days.
Okay, so the mover was Councillor Bussell. Do you approve of that? Councillor Bussell, and the seconder was Councillor Grant? I don't have any issue with that. Rightio. So you're happy for clause 5 to state that it just states that the recommendation will be out for a consultation period of 28 days? Okay. Is there any further comment on the Councillor Code of Conduct? So I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Thank you, Sarah. You okay with making that amendment to that? Thank you.
Yep.
So 13.4 is the Audit and Risk Committee independent members' remuneration.
Yep. So this is this report is regarding an action that is required under the Charter for Council's Audit and Risk Committee that requires us to review the remuneration of the 3 independent members of that committee on an annual basis. In the report, you will see that Council has undertaken some benchmarking activity to assess how we currently remunerate our independent committee members versus other councils, and how those benchmark versus total rates and charges charged by each council. So the recommendation is that we keep the current remuneration levels as is. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Grant, and a seconder, Councillor Benton. Councillor Grant, would you like to talk on this?
Well, only to say that you know, I'm happy to accept the recommendation, make the motion, but then also just to acknowledge the diligent work of the Audit Committee and the work that they do, and I think, yes, they certainly are deserving of, you know, the remuneration that they're being supported with. So I'd like to move that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Benton, you didn't want to say anything on that? Councillor Bussell, as part of the Audit Committee, did you want to say anything on that? You're okay? Okay, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. If there's nothing further, all those in favour? And the recommendation is carried. Thank you, Jamie Chubb. We'll move on to community wellbeing, and we'll move to 14.1, which is our community engagement policy. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report is presented to Council tonight with the recommendation for the adoption of the final community engagement policy. So this was put up a couple of months ago to Council as a draft, and this policy is an update of a policy that went out about 12 months ago and was developed by Council, and this aligns it now to the changes that have come in place with the new Local Government Act. This policy itself will actually outline how Council goes about implementing community engagement practices, the methods and the responsibilities that we take around informing councillors and inputting community insights and priorities into decision making. So the recommendation before Council tonight is that Council adopts the community engagement policy December 2020 with the recommended amendments that have come following the 5 submissions that were made during the review period.
Thank you, Jamie. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Herry, and a seconder, Councillor Benton. Councillor Herry, would you like to talk on the community engagement, or are you okay? Yes?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just with respect to some concerns raised regarding the minimum period of 28 days for public exhibition on this policy document, I think it's worth noting that a community engagement policy was developed just 1 year ago, which also sought community engagement and foreshadowed the incoming Local Government Act 2020 and the need for the revamped policy in question tonight. Given the requirement under the new Local Government Act to adopt a new community engagement policy on or before the 1st of March 2021, we must pay heed to the external time constraints. Further, I'm confident that the policy document is robust and appropriately reflects the strong principle-based approach outlined in the Local Government Act 2020 and will lay the foundation for a new level of collaboration between community and council as we make decisions together going forward. And might I add on closing that this will not be the last time we see this document in the next 3 years.
Thank you, Councillor Harry. Would anybody else like to talk on community engagement? I'd just like to point out there was a number of community engagement issues that came up in the last 4 years, and a number of times we did extend our timeframes on our community engagement from 28 days to 60 and beyond, and that is also the provision of council to change that again further if we need more or less, depending on the situation at the time. So I think things have worked extremely well in the past, and I think moving forward with the new Local Government Act and these changes in this community engagement policy, I think we're in the right, we're heading in the right direction. So thank you. Councillor Harry, did you want to finish off? Are you okay? Okay. I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? The recommendation is carried. Thank you, Jamie. We'll move to 14.2, which is Youth Council.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this is a very exciting report presented before Council tonight. It refers to the recommendation for appointments to our 2021 Youth Council. So the Rural City of Wangaratta Youth Council is always a really important group of people who work with us around priorities and needs for young people. They are extremely important in terms of giving us insights around how young people want council to support them, but also more broadly within the community, how we can activate young people's participation and support organisations and networks to work with young people around their priorities. So the recommendation before Council tonight is that Council appoints the following individuals to represent their peers in the 2021 Rural City of Wangaratta Youth Council. We have Alicia Cars, Dean Luhan, Ebony Albertson, Nicholas Dare, Stephanie Grant, Thomas Willoughby and Zali Marshall.
Thank you, Jamie. Could I just ask, what's the asterisk next to the Girl Grand Slam there?
So they served as a previous youth council for one term.
Great, thank you. I thought that was it. Can I have a mover of that? Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick, and a seconder would be Councillor Herry. Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Did you want to talk to the recommendation?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, Jamie, it is a very important topic tonight. Having a youth council is important, and we are proud at the Rural City to have a forum for young people being able to express their views on important issues affecting young people, well, our young people here in our community. I'm proud to say we offer an opportunity for young people to become involved and contribute to the well-being of our local young people and the wider community. I congratulate and thank you to all who put their hand up, not only to represent their schools, but represent and advocate for youth of Wangaratta. I look forward to working with this team on advising us at Council on issues and how these can be addressed, promoting and encouraging our next generation in planning, development and implementation of initiatives and projects associated directly or indirectly with our young people, giving us the youth perspective to local government that we all deserve. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzpatrick. Councillor Herry, did you want to talk on this? You did? Yep.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I just commend the youth councillors for stepping up for the role and look forward to working with them over the coming year, and I just hope that 2021 is a more forgiving year for this youth council than this year has been for the previous one.
Thank you, Councillor Herry. Would anybody else like to talk to the recommendation? No, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? The recommendation is carried. Thank you, Jamie. We'll move on. Marcus Coonan is our Infrastructure Services Officer, and 15.1 with our Parklands Master Plan, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This report is presented to Council to recommend the Parklands Master Plan be adopted by Council following our extensive community consultation process. The draft plan was placed on public exhibition for an extended 60-day period with 35 formal submissions 156 online responses received. Several stakeholder meetings were held over a 10-month period to ensure the future needs were captured in the final plan. The overarching goal of the master plan is to ensure the parklands is developed in a strategic manner over the next 20 years. And the recommendation is that Council adopt the Parklands Master Plan and associated 20-year implementation plan.
Thank you, Marcus. Can I have someone to move that? Councillor Fuller and a seconder. Councillor Benton. Councillor Fuller.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, I'll move it with an addition if I can, please.
Sure.
Adding that we ask officers to undertake an ongoing community engagement with the user groups to maintain a positive connection with the team, with them during the implementation of the project, and not less than once per annum, officers deliver a report to council outlining a summary of the engagement. Thank you.
Councillor Benton, you happy as a seconder with that addition? Okay. Would anybody else like to talk on the master plan? Councillor Fuller.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Basically wanted to add that there just to ensure that with such a large project across such a large space with so many integrated users and such, that we have to maintain that positive connection in order to ensure that everyone's getting a fair voice in terms of the changes happening down there in the future. Positive.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Benton.
Yeah, I'd just like to go back up Councillor Fuller's remarks and say that over the 20 years it must have to be a little bit flexible in going forward, because 20 years is a long time for a strategic direction to last and accommodate the activities that are going, because they are wide and varied, and it's why I think it's very important what the addition is to this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Now, would any other councillor like to talk? No? Well, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour of adoption? The motion is carried. Thank you. Marcus 15.2, the Stanford Road upgrade. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This report is presented to Council to award the contract for the reconstruction of Stanford Road. Stanford Road will be substantially improved by these works, including the safety in particular, the safety of the heavy vehicles that utilise that road. Reducing the risk of head-on collisions with heavy vehicles and cars, allowing heavy vehicles to use Stanford Road while allowing direct access to the southern Wangaratta industrial area and redirecting them off Sicily Avenue. The recommendation is that Council authorise officers to continue to negotiate a final price with preferred tenderer, authorise the CEO to award the tender up to $1.2 million, authorise the Chief Executive to sign and seal documents when ready, and disclose the contract value at the next council meeting.
Thank you, Marcus. So we're disclosing that at the next council meeting in January, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can I have a mover for that recommendation, please? Councillor Benton and a seconder. Councillor Grant. Would anybody like to, Councillor Benton, talk on the recommendation?
I'd just like to say that it's been a long time coming, this, because I've had a lot of comments over the access into Wangaratta, particularly in that area. I think there's further works to be done out there, as I've outlined, and moving forward. And I'm just glad that you clarified that the tender will be certified or adopted in the next meeting. Thank you.
Correct. Councillor Grant, did you need to talk on this? Yes.
Well, actually, only just to reiterate Councillor Benton's comment about it's been a long time coming, and I think it's an issue that in terms of traffic safety is one that needs to be addressed, and I'm glad it's being done.
Great, thank you. If there's no further comments, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? The recommendation is carried. 15.3, Ned Kelly Alive project, please, Marcus.
This report is presented to a council to award the Ned Kelly Glenrowan project. This is the first stage of this project, and it includes the detailed design of all of the facets of this project. So it has a number of different elements which will need to be brought together to create something that's not only visually impactful, but also an attraction in itself, play into the natural environment and surrounding areas of Glenrowan and the township, and tell the story of Ned Kelly. The recommendation is that Council award the contract for the Ned Kelly Glenrowan project to Context Studios, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign and seal the documents when ready, and disclose the contract price.
Thank you, Marcus. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Grant, in your ward, and Councillor Fitzpatrick as a seconder. Councillor Grant, would you like to talk on this project?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking forward to seeing this work being done. I think the potential to develop Glenrowan and the Ned Kelly story in Glenrowan has got huge potential, and I think we've only realised part of that. And I believe that this is going to be a positive step forward, and one that will play to the strengths of that environment, not only Glenrowan itself, but the Ned Kelly story as well. So I'm pleased to see that we've got this funding, and that we're able to support it and move forward on it.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Fitzpatrick, did you need to talk on the recommendation? Any other councillor like to talk on the recommendation? We'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? The recommendation is carried. Sorry, can you disclose the price, Marcus?
$443,771, GST exclusive.
Thank you, Marcus. 15.4, transition process for the Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee.
This report is presented to Council to advise of amendments to the Emergency Management Act 2013 that now place, that provide us details on how the Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committees are managed and maintained. The recommendation is that Council authorise the disestablishment of the existing Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee and authorise the CEO to establish the Municipal Emergency Planning Committee in accordance with the provisions of the amended Act 2018.
Thank you, Marcus. Can I have a mover of this? Councillor Benton, and a seconder, Councillor Bussell. Councillor Benton, would you like to talk on this? I'm sure you would.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quite frankly, Mr. Mayor, this is a bit like Yes Minister, isn't it? It really is. If it wasn't so serious, it would be. In relationship to you get rid of something and reinstate it again. I still have some concerns in supporting, and I know I've moved this, and what I'm going to say sounds like I'm going to go vote against it, but I can't do that because we are really rubber stamping this, that we've got no option but to do what it is because it's in the Act. But it does keep moving emergency away from the local community in the event that there's the representation on this committee throughout the state is going to be changed. And it can be changed dramatically, and the council will still have to put their hand, or ratepayers, in their pocket to do the recovery. I'm fearful that things will fall through the cracks, e.g. the barrier breaks that we've been able to establish on the freeway north of Wangaratta that are very, very important, and just lately the Carball Road, which is one of the roads that services that community, and it's the only road in and out that we've finally been able to get vegetation removed and a turning circle for large vehicles. I have the ability for this Act to be, this committee to do advocacy throughout the state is going to be limited in my opinion, because unless the communication is more than 100% coming back to the council, we're going to have problems. I think emergency, and I've written reports in relationship to agencies will work in silos. They do work in silos. Even after we speak of this pandemic, the different rules and regulations we've had that all answer back up through to the Emergency Victoria. But and I will close by just saying this, under the emergency management SOPs, which is a standing operation procedure, nearly every document or every part of that document says you should take knowledge, local knowledge, and respect it and treat it with common sense. And I hope that comes through loud and strong, because a lot of the community out there are unaware of what's happening with emergency management as we speak since the 1st of December with the change of the Act. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Councillor Bussell, did you need to talk on this recommendation? Okay. Anybody else like to talk on the recommendation? No, we'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour? The recommendation is carried. Thank you, Marcus, for your input tonight. 16, Development Service, Stephen Swart. We have 16.1, which is a planning permit application, PLN APP 20/134 of 15 Old Murray Valley Highway, Booraman North, the use and development of a cattle feedlot. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is about a planning permit application for the extension of a cattle feedlot at 15 Old Murray Valley Highway, Booraman North. A feedlot currently operates on the site, and the application seeks approval to increase the number of cattle from 1,000 to 2,325. Council notified nearby landowners and occupiers of the application, and as a result received 65 objections to this proposal. The application was also referred to all the relevant referral authorities. The application, objections, referral authority responses and other relevant information has been considered and assessed against the provisions of the Wangaratta Planning Scheme, the Planning and Environment Act and the Victorian Code for Cattle Feedlots. The officer's recommendation is to issue a notice of decision to grant the permit subject to conditions.
Thank you, Stephen. Stephen, there is a question from the gallery that was handed, that came in today, and this is from a Robin Tucker. So I have a question pertaining to the conditions suggested in relation to item 16.1 of the planning permit application, as I stated there before, for the use and development of a cattle feedlot, that one of the conditions on page 253 of the council meeting agenda reads, attain elevations of shelter structures. It is expected that the proposed structures will largely mirror the existing ones. To that end, council can form a view on the application without elevations, given that they mask nature and often an open style. The construction materials will need to be a non-reflective and muted in accordance with local policy. The existing feedlot includes 11 existing zinc-coloured sheds. It would be desirable for the new sheds to match these. Given that the site is well separated from the Murray Valley Highway and the closest houses, there are 11 existing coloured sheds in place, and the sheds are similar to other hay and machinery sheds widely used in the area. Could the proposed feedlot sheds also be zinc coloured rather than non-reflective and muted to match the existing sheds and provide a more consistent appearance? Thank you, Stephen. Could you answer that question?
Sure. Thank you. Within the Wangaratta Planning Scheme, we've got local policy, and one of those local policies specifically applies to housing and sheds in rural areas. The policy basis for that policy recognises the visual quality of rural landscapes in the municipality and the potential impact of rural buildings on rural landscape. One of the points under the policy is to discourage the use of reflective building cladding or roofing material. And this is really to help ensure that the new development blends into the surrounds and minimise any visual impacts. I do recognise that there are existing buildings on the site that don't meet these requirements, and they didn't have to meet these requirements because they didn't require a planning permit before they were developed. So this condition will apply to the new part of the proposal if approved. The reason for that is that this is a significant extension of the buildings in that area, so that would increase the potential impact of buildings on the rural landscape. So it's based on local policy, and it's based on the proposal being a significant extension within that rural location.
Thank you, Stephen. Stephen, could I just ask you a quick other question? When I look at the recommendation and and item 2 in the recommendation where it says advises the applicant and the submitters of the decision. Yep. Obviously the applicant is the person applying for the permit. Are you referring to submitters of in relation to they are the objectors?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Can I have someone move the recommendation, please? Councillor Benton, and
I'd like to have a
sorry.
Addition.
Yes.
To the motion in condition 9A, that the words be colour bond or galvanised metal cladding and or is the condition as it reads.
Okay, as the condition that it reads. Councillor Busser, you put your hand up as a seconder to that recommendation. Are you okay with that? Okay. All right. Well, we'll vote on that as a condition in that. Any thoughts on that, Stephen? Okay, great. Councillor Benton, would you like to talk on the recommendation?
Yes, Councillor Mayor. I think to come to a position of where, with this application and with the so many submitters or objectors in relationship to the emotion that it has arised, I think we've got to get back to the stage. It is a farm zone, and this application is in a farm zone. And if we start to go down the path of putting some of these emotive issues in front of plain law and fact, in which the feedlotters code is the law of the land, and we can't alter that, and we've got to make a decision in the constraints of that document. The alternative is to refuse it. Well, what I have struggled to find the reasons to refuse it under the code, and under all other planning implements that I've been provided with, I can't find. So if it goes to the next level above us, we've got to have justification. So, in supporting the application, it does improve the environment. It'll cut down food miles. It'll cut down the beef miles because a lot of that product will go to Melbourne, and therefore I know the owners have already purchased property in New South Wales to be able to take some of the pressure off the property there is now in the stocking rate. The other thing that I would like to mention, the practice of containment areas, and whether they're either backgrounding or education areas, is an environmental issue. And I know some of my neighbours use them extensively in relationship to sheep grazing. They may lock up and have lots of, into the thousands of lambs in a small area, in relationship to trying to make sure that the country around it doesn't get denuded environmentally and to keep cover on the area. So if we start putting constrictions on one, where does it stop in some of the farming areas that we've got? And people must realise the reason we have zones is because we have activities that will go on in certain zones, and the community will have to accept that those actions will go on. No different to in a residential area, you can't do things. But you accept that because that's what a zone is. If we haven't got zones, we've got anarchy. I think in the future we've got to make sure that the zones are the things that are there, and this application is specifically for the feedlot area. It isn't for the rest of the farm. The overlays don't come onto this the feedlot application. I'll leave it there, Mr Mayor, but I do urge my colleagues to support the application.
Thank you, Councillor Benton. Councillor Bussell, did you want to talk to the recommendation?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. And having looked at this very, very carefully, being a farmer myself, being involved in intensive animal husbandry for a large part of my life, and having looked over this place very, very carefully, out of all the feedlots that I've seen in my life, this one is probably the best planned feedlot that I've ever seen. And as Councillor Benton said, we're making a decision only on the area of the feedlot, not on the rest of the farm. And to support what Councillor Benton said, we all need to realise that farming in a farm zone must come first. Farming must come first. And there are certainly, for the state, a lot of opportunities with intensive animal husbandry. And this one is going to be done and is done very, very well. And I'm very confident that the residents and objectors around will be a lot better off with the extension of the feedlot rather than having the cattle which are allowed on the property. And that allows the operator to use the land that's now currently got cattle on it to potentially grow crops. So I can't think for the life of me if there's any reason to refuse a permit like this. And the fact that the applicant is such a good community citizen in the animal space gives me great faith that it's going to be run very, very well as it is at the moment. So I urge all my colleagues to support this, because this is a great business in the farm zone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bussell. Would any other councillor like to talk for or against? Yes, Councillor Herry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did initially have concerns regarding the extension of an intensive animal operation adjacent to the Lower Ovens River, a waterway of national significance with great ecological, social and economic value. However, the planning application has achieved the satisfaction of the determining authority with respect to the requirements of the relevant guidelines indicated by the legislation. I do note that the guidelines in question are 25 years old and are currently in the process of being reviewed and expected to be updated towards the second half of 2021. However, our decision tonight is on the current guidelines as they stand. As Councillor Benton indicated, this is indeed in a farming zone, and farming is key to our region and communities. But farming is only as good as the land, water and environment that supports it. We must treasure all these things. One last point I'd like to comment on is that it should be kept in mind that a number of the objections to this planning application likely arose from management practices on the farm that are entirely discrete from the planning application decision at hand this evening. And the general management practices of such an agricultural operation are within the jurisdiction of the rural city of Wangaratta on advice of Agriculture Victoria, and will be addressed appropriately as a distinct matter if they are directed to the appropriate channels. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Herry. Councillor Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm echoing most of what's already been said by saying this, but the objections are noted. We've heard from some of those people, as Jack has indicated, Councillor Herry has indicated. These are things that we need to ensure we work with the people to support the neighbours, but also the operations, and ensure that moving forward, if there are any issues, that we work together as neighbours, but also as the different authorities to circumnavigate these issues. Thank you.
Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I also wish to reiterate the comments made by Councillor Benton, Councillor Bussell and Councillor Herry, but then also to reiterate the fact that this is an application that's being made in a farming zone for farming activity and is being given the thumbs up by the referral authorities. I'm satisfied that we have got conditions in place that will mitigate any concerns that have been put forward, and I'm confident with the referral authorities' oversight that we're going to achieve a favourable outcome with this particular application.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Benton, would you like to have some finishing comments?
No, only the comment I'd like to make, Mr. Mayor, is the report that has been written. I would like it conveyed back to the planners in such a way that I found it a very good document to explain to both sides, both parties, to all parties, on the questions that have been raised, and there was a lot, and I think it was very plainly written in plain language, so the answers were there. I have no more to say other than that.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor, and forwarded to you, Stephen Swart, to pass on to your team. So without further ado, I'll put the recommendation to the vote. All those in favour with the recommendation? The recommendation is carried. Thank you, Stephen. We'll go down to number 17, special committee reports, nothing there. 18, advisory committee reports, minutes of advisory meeting, notices of motions. There is no urgent business, but there is public question time, and I do have a couple of questions that I will read and look for response. So these are from a Pam Decker at 4882 Wangaratta Whitfield Road. Dear rural city of Wangaratta, I have a couple of questions for the council meeting for tomorrow night. Thank you, Pam, for getting your question in writing. It's much appreciated. It gives us the time to make sure we give an educated response to your question. Since I've been here in Whitfield nearly 15 years, there have been minimal improvements to the infrastructure, despite there being numerous meetings about what we want. I found an old Whitfield Community Action Plan in 2008, 2009, reviewed in 2014, etc. We're nearly in 2021, and the drainage, footpaths, walking tracks, Benalla Whitfield Road and the three-way intersection are still in progress. Late in 2019, I was contacted by Jared Williams of the Rural Placemaking Team, and here is an extract from his email. My name is Jared, employed by council to do the Rural Placemaking Coordinator, which is a pretty unusual title. Basically, it means that my job is to work with all the different towns and settlements of our infrastructure and community wellbeing teams to roll out the rural placemaking projects that we've started about a year or so ago. Right now, our infrastructure department would like to get a bunch of projects off the ground in your town. They'd like to get together with interested residents from Whitfield to find out what you'd like them to do. I've been told about the beautifying and improving of Whitfield, and could anything from landscaping work, footpath drainage works and all those things. Then the bushfires came, Jared left, COVID-19 came, So I suppose, where are we at there with that question? Mostly there, Marcus. Could you please give us a reply?
Thanks, Mayor. So officers have completed a detailed township infrastructure design plan with consultation with the community for Whitfield in 2019-20 as part of the Rural Placemaking Program. These works include drainage, footpaths and general landscaping along the Wangaratta-Whitfield Road within the township. The works are currently budgeted for the 2021-22 financial year. Obviously that budget would still need to be adopted by council. Council has also completed the final design for the Benalla-Whitfield Road, and officers are continuing to actively seek external funding for both of these projects. Regional Roads Victoria control the Mansfield-Whitfield and Wangaratta-Whitfield roads. They have some future works proposed at the intersection, once again budget dependent, and Regional Roads Victoria will release more details when they can. Officers understand at this point that both projects will be able to be completed together. Can I just clarify too that will not be all of the works within Whitfield. The budget that's set aside for next year will only do part of the works, around about a quarter.
Thank you, Marcus. I'll also point out to Pam that your councillor Bussell is advocating very highly here at council level and further. The the Whitfield Benalla Road, we are advocating constantly in relation to getting funding. This is a multi-million-dollar project, not a couple $100,000 from a council budget, but we are trying, and we believe too that is a major work that needs to be completed in that area. Sorry, Councillor Bussell, did you have something further on that?
Yeah, this work does need doing, Mr. Mayor. It's going to be a great driver for tourists, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. Marcus, second question is, has the Waste Management Department found a solution for our bin problem? We have lots of bins at the Whitfield Information Centre. We've had a number of recycling bins increased to 6 360-litre bins. These are emptied fortnightly. During tourist season, these bins are an eyesore and a health hazard. They are used by tourists, plus residents of the rural city of Wangaratta and Upper King Valley who have no rubbish collection. These are the recycling bins as of today, but it's still 1 week before they are cleared, and the picture quite states that they are full and overflowing. We have one more weekend to go. There's only one bin not full, and one has a plastic bag full of bottles. We did spread the bins out so people could go to the shelter, where there is a lovely poster of the railway line from Whitfield Wangaratta without tripping over rubbish. I did put signs up on them that said no plastic, but they have disappeared. One time we were given a skip, but it's still not enough. The poor waste management department have not come up with a solution for us yet. This year, with no tourists, it's been fine, but as you can see, it won't take long for it to get messy. Thanks, Pam. Marcus, I'll throw that one back to you again.
Boris, thank you, Mayor. So the recycling bins are collected fortnightly by our contractor JJ Richards up there. Council officers have added a twice weekly collection of the waste bins up there. They're collected by the council staff. Recycling bins are unfortunately highly contaminated and end up in landfill regardless of whether they say recycling or not due to their contamination rates. A skip was trialled up there. Unfortunately, the skip was filled full of household waste and not holiday waste, and therefore we discontinued that skip trial. Increasing the number of bins, in officers' opinion, will not solve the issue. It will only increase the amount of rubbish that's dropped and left there. Officers would be keen to review the number and type of bins and also the location that they are provided. And also the number of collections during peak times to try to mitigate some of the issue, but it is an ongoing issue wherever we have, particularly Parks Victoria camping, as there's no bins provided at those locations, they tend to be taken out and dropped at the nearest bin that people can find. The more bins you provide, the more waste we end up with.
Thank you, Marcus. Do you think signs could be appropriate to say, please take your waste home? I was at a few recent parks close to Wangaratta where there were signs, please do not leave your rubbish, take it home with you, and no bin supplied.
Yep, they are all placed within the Parks Victoria, so that's standard DELP practice is to have no bins and that sign. Unfortunately, when you then have bins on the roadway that people can see, they're the first bin someone sees and they drop them in there. It's quite expensive to obviously collect our waste from up there, so having a number of skips up there that will end up full of, unfortunately, also household waste, not just tourist waste, increases the collection cost significantly.
Right, thank you, Marcus. Thanks, Pam, for your concerns, and hopefully expect to see some work there over the next X amount of months up there to beautify Whitfield. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we've now come to the close of our meeting. I'd like to thank everybody here tonight. To my fellow councillors, Merry Christmas, stay safe, and look forward to seeing you back, and to all other staff, thank you again. Thank you to Yen, who's new with us. Thank you again. Good to see you back. And Ben, for doing all our videoing. Thanks for a great job. Have a great Christmas and stay safe.